Let's get right up to Halas Hall today, where our Cassie Carlson is joining us. Hey, Cassie, how are you?
Good, Lou. We have, what, 2 more sleeps before the big game Saturday night, so it's an exciting time in Chicago.
Yeah, that's for sure. I was driving around the city today, and there was a big Bears ice sculpture in front of the CDW building in the West Loop, and fans are dressed in Bears gear everywhere. If you've got a ticket to Saturday's contest, you're lucky, because the secondary market's going absolutely ballistic right now, with tickets being the most expensive ever for an NFL wildcard game. After spending the week at Halas Hall, do the coaches and players realize just how big this game is?
I mean, I think if you're someone like Cole Kmet, who grew up in this city, and he basically talked about it earlier in the week, saying, you know, a lot of times the Bears hang their hat on the '85 Bears, and that is so far removed from where we're at right now. He said Chicago sports in general is all based and predicated on history. He's like, the time is now for us to rewrite that history, and someone who grew up cheering for the Bears as a kid, now playing in a wild card game against the Packers, is someone who could be part of that. And I think a lot of the players understand what's ahead of them. Someone like Kevin Byard knows, you know, being here for 2 years now, that this city just loves the Bears, and players, you know, they get recognized a little bit more probably when they're out to dinner, if they do get out a little bit more. And I think Ben Johnson has noticed it too. You know, he said this week he doesn't get downtown much, but when he is down there for the night before games, he can definitely feel the buzz of Bears fans. And so I think they appreciate the way the fans adopt this team as their own, especially when they're good in this city. And although it's been few and far between over the last handful of years, as you mentioned, you can just feel the buzz about this team, and the hope is that they can go in there Saturday night with home field advantage. They are urging fans to be quiet when the offense is on the field, and hopefully take care of business and host another playoff game next weekend.
Yeah, I hope that the fans make a ton of noise when it's Green Bay on the offensive, because I'll tell you what, you look at the Packers' numbers on the road, far different than when they're at home. They don't play as well, and that Bears defense has been terrific in front of the home field fans at Soldier Field this season. You talked about Ben Johnson. You know, comes into the city every so often, doesn't live down in the city, lives out in the northwest suburbs by Halas Hall. But listening to Matt LaFleur, who's been part of the rivalry longer than Ben Johnson, who obviously is in his first season with the Bears, listening to Matt LaFleur yesterday, it really does sound like the coaches appear to be emotionally invested in this game, right?
Well, I think everyone's emotionally invested in this game. And Ben Johnson, who we were surprised came out and said he wanted revenge last week against the Lions, is also the one who said he did want to beat Matt LaFleur twice a year, or did like beating Matt LaFleur twice a year when he was hired here by the Bears. And he's done it once. He could actually do it twice, despite them, you know, not doing it in the regular season. And he's someone who came out beginning of the week and really set the expectation, saying we are mentally prepared to play for 5 more weeks. And it seemed like he had that message to the entire locker room as soon as that Lions game ended, and it resonated with the guys in there. Take a listen.
Because this is our 3rd time through it, I think we'll be able to handle the emotions a lot better. You know, there were, last time we played them, we ended up having a number of 15-yard fouls that hurt us, you know, hurt the team. And I think we'll learn from that, and I think we'll be better off for it. But it's natural to be excited about a game of this magnitude, and yet I told him yesterday it won't take long once that ball's kicked off for us all to understand it's another football game. And that's where, when I think the lights are the brightest and you got a little bit more pressure and high stakes like this, you focus on your fundamentals, you focus on your details and the little things.
You got to just do your job and focus on your job. And we know this. Like, anytime you're playing a really good football team, whether it's in the playoffs or in the regular season, every play is so critical. So you can't have lapses, whether it's intensity, whether it's mental lapses. They just can't happen, because every play is so valuable, so critical. There's no wasted plays. And then I think ultimately what it comes down to is your ability to execute. And I would say this, that in the biggest of games, your best players have to play their best.
So you're hearing there from both of the head coaches talking about executing the fundamentals, and you talk to the players inside the locker room and the ones who have been in the playoffs before. Someone like Joe Tooney, a 4-time Super Bowl champion, basically said it's just the lights get a little bit brighter, the sidelines are more packed with media, so when you take the field during pregame warmups, it's kind of alarming at first, and then once the ball gets kicked off, you start to settle into just playing football a little bit more. And so inside the Bears locker room, they are leaning heavily on the veterans that do have playoff experience to kind of guide them through how to be even keeled throughout the week and heading into kickoff while still channeling that energy in the right way. Because for guys like Jaquan Brisker, never been to the playoffs before, even DeAndre Swift admitted they've had a hard time sleeping this week because you can feel the excitement level as this week is building and we're getting closer to kickoff. And so I think it's all about maintaining and channeling that energy the right way.
All right, today was the final chance for the media to talk to the coaches and players. Do me a favor, run down the injury report.
Well, I think the biggest news is going to be Rome Odunze making his return after missing 5 games with a foot injury. And although he might be on a snap count, not up to full speed, you're getting one of your number 1 targets back for Caleb Williams in this passing game. Although I think you should have a heavy emphasis on running the ball, especially given the conditions that we're expecting for Saturday night. Then the other thing is Kyler Gordon, a full participant in practice here today for the first time. He is questionable heading into the game, which means he could be activated off IR tomorrow heading into Saturday. And that would be a huge boost because C.J. Gardner-Johnson is out for this game and they need that nickel corner. Kyler Gordon, one of the guys they paid this offseason, being that he is one of the top playmakers on this defense. And then another notable thing is Ozzie Trapillo being good to go. It's a good reminder that he did not play last week. So getting your starting left tackle back would be huge in this game.
All right, Jordan Love has historically played well against the Bears, struggled more on the road than at home. You talked about the Bears secondary. No C.J. Gardner-Johnson because of his concussion. He's still in concussion protocol. Kyler Gordon will play. Any idea how many snaps? I mean, because really, he's been in and out of the lineup all season long, Cassie. So can he go longer than 30 or 40 snaps in this game?
Yeah, I think if you just look at the trends that we've seen from the way they have brought guys back after injury this season, he's likely going to be on the snap count. And so I think given the fact that he has had a history with soft tissue injuries this season and that have put him on IR twice at least, and he missed a handful of other games, only played in 3 games this year, I think that can kind of be the expectation. So when you're looking at this defense as a whole, knowing that Jordan Love has had success with his weapons, especially with those explosive plays, I talked to Nashawn Wright today, and he's kind of had a really good season at times, and then the last few games has struggled a lot in coverage. He said it's all about getting off the field on 3rd down and then, hunkering down in the red zone. And they've been good against the Packers in the red zone when they hosted them here in the overtime win. And then, on 3rd down, he's like, Packers are the best offense on 3rd down, or one of the best. And so that is going to be a key emphasis, to just get off the field and not allow them to extend these drives. And I think one thing that's interesting just to hear kind of the difference between the two teams and the way the locker rooms are talking about this game. I would say inside the Bears locker room, it's kind of the message has been, it's all about us. We're trying to channel our energy, maintain our focus, keep the week the same, start this new season. And inside the Packers locker room, they're like, no, we want the Bears. There's no other team we'd rather see to end their season. And so the fact that the Packers are outwardly talking about how they want to put an end to the Bears season is a different approach than what the Bears are taking. And I think it just adds fuel to the fire.
Yeah, I want to talk about Tyreek Stevenson in a second, but I want to stick with this because I've heard what you've been hearing, and that is the Packers talking more about the Bears than actually talking about the game itself. And where does that come from? Do you think what they're doing is leaning on the past, that they have dominated this series despite what's happened in 2 of the last 3 games with the Bears winning, but that they understand that when it comes to playoff time, they have basically had their foot on the throat of the Bears and Bears fans out there, and they want to just continue to make sure that Bears fans realize that, hey, they're big brother, and until they say otherwise, they will remain big brother and continue to pick on us little guys here in Chicago?
Do you feel like a little guy here in Chicago, Lou? I don't think you do. So I think that it's twofold. They came out and said, I think it was Keyshawn Nixon who said that they never feel like the underdog heading into a game. And quite frankly, they're not the underdog. They're favored heading into this game. So I think it's just kind of the mentality that the Packers have. They are the 7 seed. I think, given the fact of this maybe started a little bit after week 18 when Ben Johnson said, we don't rest our starters, and the Packers decided to rest theirs week 18, and Jordan Love is going to be fully healthy and refreshed heading into this game. And then the other thing I think is just, DJ Moore kind of stoked the fire a little bit after the overtime win because of his walk-off interview where he said, I can't even say the quote, I don't know if I can say it or not, everyone knows what it is about the Packers. And then they had the cheese graters on their head celebrating in the locker room, which he said today Roschon Johnson actually purchased for him. And then you see that trickle down the rest of the NFL, and Baltimore had cheese grater hats waiting for them after they beat the Packers a couple weeks ago. I think it's just, it adds fuel to the rivalry. I think you can say the Packers have been on the right side of it over the last handful of years, so I don't know that you can blame them. But I just think this is part of the thing of how this game is going to build. And I actually think the Bears took that approach heading into the first matchup, and then after they lost that game, they decided to keep everything more in-house, and I think they're taking that same approach heading into the wild card.
I love it. And I love that the two coaches have some serious dislike for each other. This is not theater. This is not made for TV. They really do not like each other. Tell me about Tyreek Stevenson. Didn't play in the last game against Jared Goff and the Lions. Goff ripped apart that Bears secondary for 330 passing yards. Do you think he gets any snaps in this game?
Well, he talked today in the locker room and said he is preparing as if he is going to get snaps. He actually said he was told he would play against the Lions and then ended up never seeing the field on defense. And so I think he's handling this professionally. He realizes that there's no other way he can do it, and he said if it means or gives this team a better chance to win, then he's all for it, while deep down I'm sure he feels a different way about it. But the way Dennis Allen had framed it earlier this week is essentially they were kind of surprised that Nahshon Wright came out and played the way he did this entire season and felt like he deserved the chance to be on the field. Then Jalen Johnson came back, and it just so happened where Tyreek Stevenson was kind of the odd man out, and he can still show up in practice and try to earn his way to get some playing time. But just seeing the numbers, which I think probably say the most, is the number of snaps have gone down pretty drastically, down to 0 over the last handful of weeks. And so I think Tyreek Stevenson is trying to approach this as best as he can, knowing the situation that he's in. I would say knowing that he had a lot to prove to this coaching staff that dates back to when they were hired in the start of training camp. And so he is trying to be the best teammate as possible. And he said he'll be ready if his number gets called. I'm
buying what Dennis Allen is selling. Listen, you need Nahshon Wright on the football field, because if you can't stop the other side, the other team, then you need to come up with a turnover, and the numbers prove that when the Bears come up with 2 or more turnovers, they win 9-0 this year. And if Nahshon Wright's going to give you the best chance to come up with the takeaway, then he needs to be on the football field. You're not going to move Jaquan Brisker off the football field. You're going to roll with Jalen Johnson and hope he continues to get better with him out there. And Kevin Byard's one of your captains. Let me get to Jordan Love for a second, because I believe that you need to make this guy feel uncomfortable and force him to give up the football, throw in positions that he doesn't want to. Do you agree? How are they going to put pressure on Jordan Love?
I agree how they're going to put pressure on Jordan Love. I think that's why Dennis Allen gets paid the big bucks, because they tried doing it blitzing the first time they met, and he just tore them apart in that sense. And then you look at the front four and you just wonder if they have the manpower to do it. And mind you, Austin Booker is the one that had the sack or the hit on Jordan Love that concussed him and kept him out the last few games of the season. And so it's interesting to hear actually how the Packers view that now, because I think Josh Jacobs was talking about it yesterday, saying, that's going to force them to come out with an edge in the way they play on offense, and the Bears defense better be ready to take some hits. And so it's an interesting mentality and how that changes kind of the way and the rivalry of this game heading into it too, because the Packers are pissed of that hit. And while people in Chicago might be trying to justify, did Jordan Love lower his helmet into Austin Booker's shoulder or not, and they feel one way about it in Green Bay. So Dennis Allen has a tough test. They haven't been able to hit home. Montez Sweat finally has his double-digit sack season with one team, but I just think you want to see it more consistently. And I think the thing is, at this point in the season, showing up in the playoffs, given the personnel that you have, I don't know how much different of a pass rush you're going to see, and if they are going to be able to blitz. And mind you, with the blitz and Jordan Love being so good against it, and is Kyler Gordon the guy who's blitzing if he's just coming back off of injury? I think there's so many moving pieces that's definitely one thing where you feel like the Packers have the upper hand against this Bears defense and can probably take advantage of it. And I think that's why they get so many explosives against this Bears team.
Yeah, Bears have given up more explosives than any other team in football, and I'm scared to death to blitz Jordan Love because he made this Bears team pay when they tried last game. Bears practice today and yesterday. I know Ben Johnson was talking about getting back to the fundamentals, wasn't he? Give me an idea of what he meant.
Well, I think he just means about the margin of error in the playoffs is so little, and you never know what play is going to be the winning play. And so I think for him, it's all about channeling that and focusing on the little things, because he believes that this is a good football team that they have here in Chicago. It's gotten them to this point. It won them the division. It earned them the 2 seed, even if it was a little indirectly. And they feel like they have what it takes to make a run. And I think more so than anything, as the Bears are sitting here right now, Ben Johnson came out and said that they are trying to make it the next 5 weeks. That takes them all the way to the Super Bowl. And so he wasted no time after the Lions game addressing that with his team and making sure that they know that there should be one focus over the next month. So take a listen to what he had to say and how it resonated with everyone.
I've been saying it all week. I'm rooted in the fundamentals, particularly on games like this. It's about blocking, it's about tackling, it's about catching the ball, it's about ball security. Things of that nature come out to the forefront. And so I'm more concerned with playing sound football, making sure that we're putting our guys in a good spot. I mean, we got a lot of talented players, and you just want them to play fast, play confident, and put them in good spots. And so that's what we're concerned about as a coaching staff. I've tried to be pretty steady Eddie just in terms of demeanor throughout the season, and that doesn't change here and now. That's my role, and I think the guys are going to show up, and I think they're excited for this opportunity, and I'm excited to see them play.
And so Ben Johnson today was also asked about the team taking on his identity, and he said he doesn't know if he could say that or not. He just tried to be as consistent as could be throughout the entire season, and it's gotten them to where they are today. And a lot of that has been because of the veterans who he's relied on to get this locker room in the right mindset. Yeah,
makes sense. The Athletic's Kevin Fishbain, award-winning writer now, and I'm really happy for Kevin, but he wrote a great piece. Don't know if you had a chance to see it. And it was on the offensive line, specifically guard to guard. He talked about the acquisition of Joe Thuney and Drew Dahlman as a free agent and Jonah Jackson, and that these guys have started every game. I think the O-line is really the MVP of this team. They have kept Caleb Williams upright. They've given him the opportunity to put up the passing numbers he's put up this season, breaking the Bears' single-season franchise record, sacked only 24 times after 68 a year ago. They've plowed the way, Cassie, for a guy like DeAndre Swift to rush for a new career high, and Kyle Monangai, both running backs, over 750 yards. First-time Bears running backs have pulled that off since Walter Payton and Roland Harper back in the 70s. I want to talk to you about the offensive line. I think it's so important. I really think if you were to ask me what's the key to this football game, I think those guys up front, making room for the running game, at the start, good start, so the Bears can jump ahead and win the time of possession, get the football, and get Green Bay on its heels, instead of the Bears playing from behind, deviating from a game plan that may involve plenty of runs, but if you're playing from behind, now you need to throw the football in who knows what kind of elements on Saturday because of the weather forecast. I think key to the game is that offensive line and running the football from the start. What do you think?
I would have to agree, and I think we didn't see the best offensive line performance, which also reflected in the run game last week, and I think it's about getting back to the basics. And something that Cole Kmet talked about this week was the tight ends, the offensive line, and the running backs all being on the same page to understand assignments, blocking, lanes, and that's something they've done a really good job at. And DeAndre Swift mentioned it yesterday, saying ever since the bye week, which is when those running game numbers really took off, they've had a good camaraderie between those three position groups, and everyone's been on the same page. And I think you look at the first 15 plays, they're always scripted. Ben Johnson was, tongue-in-cheek asked about it today, and he said, I'm not going to tell you them, but hopefully it gets us off to a faster start. And the matter of fact is these slow starts have been killing the Bears. And so you need to be on your home field, use home field advantage, and try to get out to a fast start. And, you dictate the game. They've been playing from behind for so many weeks. And so I think that's going to be one of the keys. And you look at just the way the run game has really carried this team. I think you could look back to the Black Friday game against Philly, where that's really what wore them down. And you have to find a way to wear down this Packers defense. And if you look at their game a couple weeks ago against the Ravens, when Derrick Henry, how much did he rush for? Nearly 300 yards, I think. He had 4 touchdowns.
Yeah.
I think you could take a page out of that. And I don't think DeAndre Swift or Kyle Monunga is Derrick Henry, but I think the combo of them and the offensive line could definitely do some damage against this Packers defense.
Come on, you can run all over this Packers defense with all the injuries they have up front. All right, I want to end our conversation on a little bit of a lighter note. One of the great pieces of sound that I heard this week was from tight end Colston Loveland inside the Bears locker room. He shared the message that Ben Johnson delivered to his team earlier in the week. Tell me about it.
I mean, I think it's better if we just let Colston Loveland talk about it, because I asked the question and I was kind of like, I thought it was going to be, he just came into the team meeting saying, it's a new season. We got the Packers, enough said. But turns out he had a more stern message for this team.
He's like, it's another season, so you guys better have more energy, better energy than we had last season. And like he said, if you're not after the game, he said, if you're not prepared to play the next 5 weeks, if you're thinking about anything else, thinking about booking a flight, vacations or anything, don't come in. So he made it very clear about what the team is looking for.
The intent behind that is just to let the young players who haven't been here before, it's really just to understand that we're all in with everything we're doing, the here and the now. And like I've already mentioned, it's just, you don't take it for granted when you're a coach or a player and you've been around for a while and you haven't made the playoffs a number of times to make it, and you just want to make sure that everyone is focused on winning the next game. And that's really the whole focus behind it, is that intent.
And as Ben Johnson said earlier this week, they will go all out for this game. He was asked about kind of how his wife and kids feel about this playoff run that they're hopeful that they're going to make. And he's like, he didn't really have an answer. I think he's like, I really haven't seen my wife and kids much this week. I'm solely focused on the game planning. Maybe I'll see them today. So I think Ben Johnson's locked in, and in turn, he's getting his team locked in.
Well, make sure that you don't be booking any flights on vacation to Cabo or anything until February 12th or after, because Super Bowl is February 8th. Bears will win it. There'll be a parade probably on the 10th or 11th, and then you can leave on the 12th and take your vacation that you so well deserve, Cassie Carlson.
You too, Lou. Go off to Greece.
I'm going to. You don't have to ask me twice.